Hello friends, welcome to another tutorial of the Houdini. In this tutorial, I'm gonna show you how you can implement ChatGPT inside the Houdini. When I'm talking about implementation, I don't mean opening ChatGPT in your browser or somehow inside the Houdini, ask it to write the code and copy and paste that code in the attribute wranglers manually. What I want to show you is how you can install ChatGPT and get the code or its response directly from attribute wranglers. The answer of this question or solution is OpenAI library. With OpenAI, you have access to ChatGPT and you can send a prompt to ChatGPT, get the response directly in Houdini with Python scripting language. And also you have some other cool features of the AI like image generation, image editing, and image variation as well, which I'm gonna show you later in this video. OpenAI library is not installed in the Houdini by default, so you have to install it before start to play with OpenAI module inside the Python. You need to go to OpenAI website and sign up for a new account. After logging into your account, you should have something like this. And I should mention that OpenAI module is not free to use. It will cost you based on the type of the services and the models which you are using or the number of the tokens or prompts which you are sending to the OpenAI tools. Once you are in your account, you need to generate API key for yourself. Inside the personal, you have view API keys, and here you can generate a new secret key. The new secret key is just series of the numbers and the string which are unique and it's linked to your account. It's super important to keep it somewhere safe because if you disclose it to someone else, that person might use your credit for their application. To generate new key, you need just to press this button here, pick any optional name like test B and create secret key. You must keep this string somewhere in your disk because after pressing done button here, you will not have access to full string anymore. Now we have our API keys and it's time to install OpenAI. If you go to Google and search for OpenAI install, there is an instruction to show you how you can install OpenAI in Python for Houdini. There is a command here to install OpenAI, but for Windows user, they need to install pip tools as well because pip is not installed in Houdini either and it's just for Windows. So before starting to play with this command, we need to install pip as well. I'm going to Google again and search for install pip Windows. And here in this link, we have a command here. Copy this command and go to the Houdini, Windows, and then Shell. Paste the command here. As you see, this command is trying to download a Python file from this link into this output file. And make sure you already created a folder or directory somewhere in your disk. In my case, it's D. Then press enter. Now download is done, but that pip file is not installed in Houdini yet, so we need to use Python command again and point it to that file. Press enter and wait for installation. Okay, installation is done. Now we can start to install OpenAI module. For doing that, get back to that OpenAI page again, you need to copy this code here in the Windows, open shell, and paste that command here, but you need to use Python command to have access to this pip command. So I'm going to write down Python and use flag M. Sorry, this $sign shouldn't be here. So Python-M pip install OpenAI and then press enter. Wait for OpenAI installation to be done. Okay, it's done. Now we can test it out to make sure it's installed correctly. In the Python shell, you need to write import OpenAI. Okay, it's working, but if you have got any error after installing OpenAI, you can relaunch Houdini and try this command again. Now we have access to OpenAI module. It's time to start play with ChatGPT in Houdini with Python language. Same as always, I'm going to drop down geometry network, and we need, of course, Python node. We don't need these lines here at this time, and we need to import OpenAI module. To have access to ChatGPT from OpenAI, you need to use chat completion function. Let me show you something here in the Google again, OpenAI chat completion. And if you go to this page, you have introduction to chat completion function, and here we have a simple example of chat completion. So you can copy this code here inside the Python, paste it here, and we don't need this line. Chat completion is sending message from the user, which is you, to ChatGPT model, and we are getting the result, which is the response from ChatGPT as an output of this function. So we need to store the output inside a variable. I'm going to use response equal this part. And what's the model? In OpenAI, we have different type of the models, and each of them is made specific for different kind of the task. For example, let me show you all of the models first. Here you can search for OpenAI models. Oops. We have different type of the models. For example, if you want to use AI to generate programming code for you, maybe Code DaVinci is the best option. Or if you want to use OpenAI, same as what you are dealing with regular ChatGPT, you can go with ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo. We have ChatGPT 4, but I believe for free accounts and free users, the only thing which we have access is ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo. Also, you need to be careful about the type of the models. You need to see what your needs and pick the right one based on that, because the price of any of these models are different. Some of them are cheaper, some of them are more expensive. In this project, we are keep going to use the ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo, which we have here. And in the message, we need to specify two different things: the rule and the content. The content is the, for example, question which you need to send to ChatGPT, and the rule is type of the content. We have three different type of the rules: system, user, and assistance. System is usually useful for when you want to give some instruction to OpenAI. For example, you want to specify some rules and tell ChatGPT to answer the question based on your or in respect of those rules. The user is the regular command or question which you need to send to ChatGPT, and the assistance is the reply from ChatGPT to guide you or to help the user. For the first project, we are going to use only the user one. Most of the cases, we need to just play with the user one. And also in some of my projects, which I'm gonna show you at the end of this tutorial, we are going to use the system as well to specify some instruction for ChatGPT, specifically for Vex programming and Python. Okay, let me bypass this line for now. The rule is user and the content is here. So I can ask a question here from ChatGPT. For example, what is your name? As I said, the response from the OpenAI model will be stored inside the response. So we need to print out the value of the response. Control Enter. We have an error about API key because we didn't specify our API key. We need to link that to OpenAI. For doing that, you can type OpenAI dot API underscore key equal to that API key string which you have got from your own account. For example, here is mine. Then Control Enter and wait for the response. Here we go. We have a reply from ChatGPT. It says that I'm an AI language model created by OpenAI. You can refer to blah, blah, blah. As you see, we have a choice, and the choice is the reply, and we have different type of the information here. But what we are concerned is mostly the value of the content, which is the answer of our question. Here I will to do something to just give us the value of the content. For doing that, first we need to see how many choices we have. Right now it's just one choice, but sometimes we could have multiple choice or reply from ChatGPT, which I am going to show you later. In this case, we have just one choice, so it's an array choices, and we are going to use the first argument of the array. After that, we need to use the message, so we have message. Inside the message, we have content. Control Enter. Let me clear this here, and then Control Enter. Here we go. We have just the content here, and it's much more clear for you to see the response from ChatGPT. Let me try something else. What is Houdini software? Okay, Houdini software. Houdini is a 3D animation tools and 3D visual effects software developed by Side Effects and etc. Okay, it's working, but be careful about how many prompts or tasks you're sending to ChatGPT, because it's limited to type of your account and the type of the model. If you go to your account here, in the rate limit, you can see for ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo, we are bounded to 3 different prompt per each minute. So if you go more than this, you will get an error in Houdini, and you have to wait for the next minute. And also you are bounded to 40,000 of tokens per each minute as well. Now let me show you how you can get different choices or different responses at the same time from ChatGPT. For that case, we need to use n here, comma n equal. If you don't use the n flag here, By default, it means that we need just one answer. But if you specify or define n flag here, for example 3, it means that we need 3 different choices or response from ChatGPT. I'm going to use n equal 3, and let me bypass this code for a second and just print the value of the response, which should be an array with 3 different arguments or choices. Control Enter. Okay, here we have 3 different choices. The first one, Houdini is 3D animation software that's widely used, and the next one, Houdini software is 3D animation and visual effects tool. The last one is Houdini's 3D animation visual effects software developed and published by Side Effects. As you see, the subject is almost same, but we have some difference between each answer. And we have 3 different answers because of this flag here. Now let me do something just to give me 3 different response from the content, not the whole information from the choices. So if we need to do a loop in Python for choice in response and choices, something like this, and then we are going to print out the choice, the current choice, the content inside the message inside the current choice. But to make it more clear in the Houdini console, let me write each answer in the new line. So print maybe 2 different new lines, \n, that's it. Control Enter and wait for the response. Yeah, it's working. We have just the content of 3 different choices here. If you close this Houdini console by mistake, you can also check the output value of the print in Python shell as well. In the next test, let me ask ChatGPT to write a code, a Wex code for me. For example, write a Houdini Wex code to change the color of the points. Something like that. Control Enter with 3 different choices. Okay, now we have 3 different response from ChatGPT. It's a little hard to see them. Here is one example. Vector new color equals something, a loop over all of the points, change the color. The next one is a little different, but I think it's better just applying some random color to the points, and the last one is different again. So it's working. But let me show you how we can instruct ChatGPT to respect some rules when writing something for us. In this line, if I don't use Houdini Vex code here, ChatGPT doesn't know which programming language we are talking about. So one way we can do is using the system to solve this problem. In the system rule, I'm going to say you are Houdini Vex code assistance. So by adding this line here as a system, GPT knows which we are talking about Houdini Vex programming language. So here I can just say write a code to change the color of the points. Control Enter. Okay, now it's working. we have answer, and it's clearly a vex command, even when we are not using any word regarding the vex, because already the ChatGPT knows that we are talking about Houdini vex code language. Let me show you a better example about how important system rule is. For doing that, let me ask the regular ChatGPT in here to write me a simple VEX code for a function. Here I'm going to say, okay, ChatGPT, you are VEX code, or maybe Houdini VEX code assistant. Wait for the ChatGPT. Okay, now I'm going to say write a simple function with 3 different inputs. Wait for the answer, and here, see, in Houdini vex function, we shouldn't use comma between each input. It should be semicolon. If you run this code in Houdini, inside Wrangle, we should get an error. And here we go. And that's because it's using comma between each inputs. If you turn it to semicolon, you should have the correct result. So by using the system rule, we can tell it to, or in the other word, we can instruct it to use semicolon between each input of the function. So what you need to do is use semicolons to separate input variables. Now we have the right answer. But we can fix that problem in Python here very easily. We just need to instruct it in the system. We need this line here, and we need to specify another system rule, like so, and use semicolon. Let me test it out before using this code first to make sure it's giving us the wrong answer. Write a code to change the color. I'm going to say write a simple function with 3 inputs. Let's check the answer first. Okay, we have this function which is not correct. It's still using comma. Now let's check the answer after this instruction. Use semicolon to separate input variables. Run the code again and wait for the response. Here we go. Now we have the right answer with the semicolon. This is how you can instruct ChatGPT to write a correct VEX code for you, just in the case if it has some mistake about writing a VEX code. Sometimes it's using some kind of the functions which are not exist in the VEX at all. Okay, in the next project, I'm gonna show you how you can use OpenAI to generate AI image for you. Let me open new project, geometry network, and Python. Import OpenAI, OpenAI.API key with that API key string. If you want to make it in the better way, in the maybe more procedural way, what you can do is go to your home directory of the Houdini. In my case, it's Houdini 19.5, open Houdini environment file, and add this line here, API underscore key equal your API key here. Then you can have access to this global variable from Python. API key equal who.get environment variable. The name was API underscore key. To start play with image generation with the AI, you need to use OpenAI image tools. If you go to the Google and search for OpenAI image generation, you can select this link here, and there is instruction about how you can play with image generation tools of the AI. We have three different tools here, or three different functions. The first one is image create, which creates some image based on the text. The next one is image edit. You have an input image, you have a mask, and you can ask ChatGPT to tweak the mask area based on the text. And the last one is image variation. You specify an input image and you can ask it to give you more variation based on that input image. Okay, we are going to use the first one. Copy the code and paste it here. Instead of this prompt, I would like to say a boy in the street. We need just one reply or one image from OpenAI, and be careful about the size. The size for now should be square, and also right now OpenAI just supporting 3 different square sizes. If you go to the previous page, we have 256 by 256, we have 512 by 512, and 1024 by 1024. Also be careful about this sign here. When you are writing the size in Houdini, you shouldn't use multiply sign. You need to use X sign. And the response will be an URL link to that image. Let me test it out. Control Enter. Wait for the response. Now we have response. Okay, I forgot to print the image URL. So print image URL, Control Enter again. Okay, here we go. There is a link to that image. If you open it in your browser, you should have that AI generated image, a boy in the street. Let me test something else. Sunset, maybe ocean. Control Enter. There is a new response, and yeah, that's amazing. If you wanted to make it more simpler, you can ask Python to open that URL for you automatically. For doing that, you need to import another module in Python. Import web browser, and then we have web browser.open. So here, instead of print, we can say web browser.open that URL. Control Enter, and that's working. Let's try something else with 3 different images. I'm going to reduce the size to 512 by 512. Control Enter. Okay, there is just one image. I need to use for loop here. So for choice inside the response data, image URL will be the current choice, and then URL. Let me test it out. Control Enter. Okay, now we have three different image. Now you should be familiar about how you can call OpenAI module and play with some of its function like chat completion to send a text to ChatGPT and get the response, or how we can generate an AI image based on the prompt. To make this video shorter, I'm not going through all of them, but if you check documentation part of the OpenAI website, there are very good examples about all of the features of the ChatGPT or OpenAI library. For example, for image part, I went through just the image generation based on the text, but you can see how play with the OpenAI image create, and also generating different variation of the image based on the provided image. In the next part, I will show you how to install some of the digital assets which I've built based on OpenAI library. Before to install those digital assets, make sure that API key is added in your Houdini environment file. I mean, inside Houdini homepage file, in the Houdini environment file, you should have this API underscore key global variable with that strings which you have got from OpenAI website. Now we can install digital assets. First, you need to go to assets, install asset library, and install the HDI file which I provided to you. OpenAI tools, press accept. You will have 5 different new nodes inside the geometry network or sublevel. Press install, append geometry node, and if you type JK, you will have all of them. OpenAI Python, it's for writing a Python code based on the prompt from the user. OpenAI Wrangle to write Wex code based on the prompt. We have image edit, image generator, and image variation. Let's begin with OpenAI Wrangle. The UI is almost same as the regular attribute Wrangle in Houdini, but we have the prompt and the response button here. Let me make something simple for you. We have a grid, and I'm gonna say change color of the points to red. Press response, and you will have the code here in the expression part. Very well. No need to write the code by yourself. And let me try something else. For example, write a code to add random color to the points with different seeds. Response, and wait for the reply from ChatGPT. Here we go. It's working very well. And sometimes there are some syntax errors. You need to check the code and fix some problems if there was any, but in this case there is no need for that. It's working. Let me try something more complicated. Let me see if it can apply a color based on the noise. Write a code to, maybe let's try Perlin noise to points color, maybe. Yeah, let's try that. Press response. Okay, we have some parameters. You can promote them by pressing this button here. We have amplitude and frequency. Let me increase the number of points. Okay, it's working, but I think the code is not so optimized because we have a loop over all of the points. Let me try detail. Yeah, I think it should be faster because once we have a loop, we don't need to run the code per each point anymore. Yeah, we have the Perlin noise. You can press response for the next answer. Maybe the next one is better. And let me try to do some deformation. I would like to generate a sine deformer, maybe. Sine deform grid, maybe toward y based on position x. Yeah, let me try that. Okay, it's not working. Yeah, set it back 2 points and we have a great sine deformer with some parameters here, maybe more amplitude, and we have control over the frequency. Each time you are pressing the response button, you should have a different answer. You need to check to see which one is better. Yeah, the next one is almost same. And right, let's try something else. Let's try helix. Helix shape toward y with maybe points. I don't want to deform it. I want to add new points to draw that helix shape. Response. And because we don't want to use the input, you can set the run over to detail. Yeah, as you see, we have a very great result. You can control the shape by these variables, I think. For example, increase the number of coils to 2, 25 to, yeah. Let's try another one. Yeah, same thing. And maybe with more points. Okay, it's working. Different answer. What about if I use spiral instead of helix? Let's try that. Yeah, same thing. Read parameters. This one is even better. We have some parameters to control. You can press this button here. We have radius, height, coils, turns. Is it happening? Let me see. Yeah, it's working. It's toward Z. Now let's try the Python one. The Python one is not so precise as what we have for Wrangle, but it's good as at least for the start point. You can ask it to write a code for you, then you can modify the code based on your need. Most of the times for Python, you need to fix some syntax errors and things like that. I'm gonna test the Python one in the new project. Geometry. And here, grid again, and let's try the color example. Change points color to red. Press response. Okay, here is the code of in the Python, but there is an error. I think first you need to have this attribute ready before using this node. So I'm going to create a color node. Now we have CD attribute, and also in Python you need to make these numbers to float even if they are integer. So 0.0, 0.0 and 0.0. Yeah, working very well. Let me try something else. Again, maybe sine deformer toward y based on position x of the points. Okay, there is an error. Yeah, it forgot to import math module. So import math and control enter. We have very great wave deformer with Python. And the shape is based on position X. Let me try something with the Wrangler one. AI Wrangle. And let me ask you to write Fibonacci sequence. Shape toward, I am not sure if toward y is important in this case, with points response. Okay, something is happening. Set it back to details because we don't have any input. Yeah, it's working. See? Fibonacci sequence. You can, I think, increase the number of points with this variable. Maybe more. Yeah, that's great. I would like to see if I can do same for Python. So AI Python and paste that prompt here, first response. Okay, we have something. Definitely we need to increase number of points. Yeah, same deal here. Let me see if we can play with other attributes like PScale. Another OpenAI Python node as a prompt, I'm gonna say change PScale based on distance of an object and response. Okay, we have some error. Let's connect a grid to this node and remove this Python here. And I think we need to create attribute before using this node. So attribute create to add that PScale. Now we have PScale and no word transform. Object pose equal obj. Okay, it's looking for box 1 in the object network, but there is no box 1. So let's add a box here. Box 1. And it's working. It seems to work. We have PScale and some numbers. So copy 2 points. Make the grid bigger. Yeah, it's working. If you move this box, we have different distance based on the position of this box. And the code is kind of interesting. As you see, it's extracting the translate from word transform matrix of this object and then compute the distance and control PScale based on that distance. Interesting. We could do same for Wex. AI Wrangle and same prompt response. Okay, now it used the second input of the wrangle for reference position. So sphere connected to second input. Now we have p scale and same setup. Yeah, very well. What about different method? Okay, here the code is a little different. We have an error, and that's because we shouldn't use vector inside distance or any function actually. So instead of vector, we need to use set. Control enter. Oh, it's so big, multiplied by or divide by 10, 50. Yeah, and here is the target position. So far so good. Now let me show you how you can play with other nodes: image generation, image variation, and image edit. I'm going to drop down JK OpenAI image generator. You have few options here. The prompt is the description of what you expected from that image. You need to set your image size. I'm going for 1024 by 1024 and the number of choices. As a start point, let's start with something simple. 3D glass ball with caustics on wooden table. Yeah, not too bad. Let me try 3 different images at the same time. Oh, this one is not so interesting. What about if I remove glass? Oh, I've reached to my limitation for number of image per each minute. I have to wait for the next minute. Yeah, let me change the ball to diamond. Yeah, this one is beautiful. Now I would like to do something different. Ancient city in jungle, maybe in the night, and I would like to have fire on three different choices and generate. Okay, we have 3 different results. This one and this one are good. What about just ancient city in the jungle? Yeah. Okay. Something else. A boy standing on street. This one's funny. Look at his face. Okay, let's go and see how we can play with image edit. When working with image edit, you need to use 2 different images. The main image and the next one is same as the main one, but you need to specify an area as a mask, and then by prompt you can tell OpenAI to tweak the original image only on that part. So I have provided an image here for you, and this one will be our main image, which you need to pick it up here, and the format needs to be PNG. I'm going to open it inside Photoshop to draw a mask. Okay. It doesn't need to be so precise, just something close to the subject. Then I'm gonna remove it, and you need to save it as PNG format. Okay, now here is the mask. Then you need to write the prompt, fill background, for example, and generate. So far so good. Here is AI generated image, and here is the original one. I'm gonna test another thing, add a man, generate. I don't know what that is, but it's definitely a man. I'm gonna ask it to put a businessman. And here is our mysterious businessman. And here is another example. So far so good. Let's try another image. I'm gonna use this one, and I would like to remove this person from the image. So again, in the Photoshop, we have this image, and I'm gonna unlock this layer, draw something close to her. Delete, Control Shift S, and save it here as a mask. Okay, let's get back to Houdini. The second girl, image, mask, and fill background. Okay, not too bad, but maybe we can try 3 different choices at the same time to see which one is better. Okay, this one and this one seems to work better. Okay, let's go for the last note, which is image variation. You need to use one image here, and it could generate different variation of that image for you. For image variations, I provided these images, and let's try that. I've got them from the internet. For the first one, which is this concept, I'm gonna set the size to 1024, 1024, 3 different variations, and press generate. Okay, here is the result, 3 different variation from this picture. Not too bad. Let's try something else. The girl, and 3 different variations, generate. Here we go. And the main one was this, and that's the last one. Quebec City, 3 different variations, generate. Here we go. 3 different image based on this one. In this example, they are so close with small difference in the details. For example, this part of the image. Okay, I think there is nothing more to say. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and these tools will be useful for you. See you in the next tutorial and thanks for watching. Bye.